All right, welcome. So today, what I want to talk about is patience is a virtue, and you hear that often. You hear people say that, but what the hell does that even mean, right? I want to say I'm the smartest person, but I've heard it enough. I'm like, okay, there's something positive about it. What does that mean? So I want to talk about that and help people understand what people mean by that. Is it positive? Is it negative? It all depends, right? Because you got people can be manipulative, and in the case where they want to get what they want. So I'm going to talk about that anyway. So let's move forward. So patience is a virtue. What does that mean, right? So I went to Google. I Googled this, and it says here, patience is a virtue is a short phrase that means waiting calmly is a good trait. Okay. Now, why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because I was doing a podcast with one of my colleagues. I was doing a podcast with Norma, and I told Norma, like, I know who I am. I understand my personality. I understand my strengths and my weaknesses. There's no such thing as a perfect person. Okay. And the quicker we understand that, and the quicker we can embrace our positives, our negatives, our darkness, our lightness, the better we can become as people. Now, that doesn't mean you need to become stagnant and never want to make changes or improvements, but it's so essential that you understand your strengths and your weaknesses. My favorite quote ever is know thyself, know who you are, understand your strengths, your weaknesses, and and particularly business owners, right? Understand what you're good at, what you're not good at. I had another kind of conversation with Scott, and Scott is going to be on my podcast next week. Scott popped on, and you can tell the difference between people that are involved in personal development and not. So Scott popped on, and he's like, Jerome, I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm not good at. I'm an Apple user and I don't understand technology. That's why I use Apple, because they keep it simple. And for the most part, he's right. And what I admire and I appreciate about Scott is that he knows that he's not great with technology. And I'm like, well, Scott, I'm the opposite. I'm good with technology and I use these tools. I use this stuff because I am good with technology. But I know what my weaknesses are. And I have other areas that I'm not the best in. So patience is a virtue. What the hell does that mean? It means waiting calmly is a good trait. Now, earlier I mentioned that people like to manipulate. And the reason why I mention that is because people will say, be patient, have patience. They will tell you these things, and they make patience seem like, oh, it's a positive thing. And it can be, but it really depends. So most of the time when people are saying be patient, they're biding time, or they're looking to escape accountability. They're looking for reasons, and they're painting the positive picture of being patient. But there's a negative picture of being patient as well, and people don't like to talk about or address that. And that's why I put together this small masterclass of this presentation so I can talk about that, right? Because, like, thank God, there's a book, Surrounded by Idiots, by Thomas Erickson. Thomas Erickson is the author, and that book goes into it. It talks about personality types, and I understand my personality and my behavioral type. I understand it, and nobody can shift me or move me from understanding who I am as a person. I know who I am, and I know that I have strengths, weaknesses, pros, and cons. So if you don't know by now, inside of that book, it breaks it down into colors. I am high in red and I'm high in blue. That means I'm results oriented and I'm very detailed. So I've got both of those. And I'm going to talk about the weaknesses because people get sensitive about that. All right. So that's a really good book that I recommend you read and you understand. Okay. Now, patience is a virtue. So I just reiterate, patience is a virtue is a short phrase that means waiting calmly is a good trait. That's not necessarily true. Waiting calmly can be devastating sometimes, right? I'm in real estate, and if I wait around for deals or wait around for things to happen, that I get no business, right? So patience is a virtue, it's subjective. It depends on the situation. Sometimes you have to be patient, sometimes you don't. Now, let's talk about, since nobody likes to talk about this, I put together, with the assistance of ChatGPT, I put together some positives of the opposite of patient. And what is the opposite of patience? It's impatience. And I know that I am an impatient person myself. I know this, but just because I'm impatient doesn't mean it's all negative. It depends on the situation, right? I was thinking about my colleague Norma, and I told her, I said, Norma, yeah, I know I'm an impatient person, but that's part of the reason why I get things done, right? Because I am impatient, because I put pressure, because I can apply these things to different situations. I'm good at that. And that's how I get the results that I get in my business. And that's how I help other people get results. I'm willing to fully embrace that. And nobody can gaslight me or make me feel guilty about having impatience within me. And if we're being completely honest, everybody has a little bit of impatience, right? But they will try to guilt trip you and make you feel guilty for you displaying impatience with a situation. We all have both impatience and patience. We all have both embedded within us. But I wanted to focus on the positives of impatience because people are so apt to talk about the positives of waiting patiently. So let's talk about the positives of being impatient and not waiting around. So impatience, often viewed negatively, can also have several positive aspects, which is what I want to talk about, especially environments that demand quick results. So like business environments, or when it's time to get things done, deadlines, right? So here are 7 positive aspects of being impatient. Number 1, prompt action, right? So I have several different processes and structures within my business to help people get stuff done. And one of the reasons why I'm able to help people get stuff done and why I'm able to get stuff done is because it requires prompt action, right? Don't sit around waiting for things to be perfect, waiting till you have all of the ducks in a row and all the pieces in place to get something done, to test the market, to get some results. You don't want to wait around doing that. Impatience will, it can prompt. So impatient will bring you prompt action, right? It says here on the screen, impatient can drive individuals to take immediate action rather than procrastinating, right? That's one of the biggest issues that people have. They're so busy waiting around, being patient, right? Patience is a virtue and they never get anything done. So it's like, it's nothing really special about me. I always tell people it's nothing special about me. I'm an action taker, right? I'm an action taker. I like to move fast. I like to set dates. I like to set deadlines, right? So it says here, this can lead to faster completion of tasks, right? That's why I get things done so quickly. I'm thinking about Norma, and I was telling her, I was like, look, I want to get your book done. We got to get it done fast. And I'm trying to get it done in 2 weeks, right? And 2 weeks was honestly, I was being generous because we help people get books done in 4 hours or less. So you can see in the background, I have a book here, the 5-day client attraction. If you're interested in learning that, get you a copy of that book. If you're specific to real estate, I would encourage you to get you a copy of one of 2 books. The first book is Real Estate Marketing Implementation. So inside of Real Estate Marketing Implementation, there's a bonus chapter that helps you put your book together fast. And I also go into detail on the frameworks that help you get things done quickly. I call it my strike method. It's called the strike method. It stands for let me find out in the book, just so you can have an idea of the strike method and what it can do, right? So I put it directly in my book. If you don't know me by now, I am a huge advocate of books, and you can use your book to teach people things. You can use it as it's just a multi-purpose tool. So the strike method, which we help you implement in our services and our programs, it's an acronym, strike. S is for speed, T is for teamwork, R is for results, I is for implementation, K is for Kaizen, which means progress over perfection, and E is for execution over excuses. So if you're in real estate, go get you a copy of Real Estate Marketing Implementation, the book, or get you a copy of Real Estate Success Secrets, and you can learn how to implement some of the stuff that I'm talking about from those books. All right. So prompt action is one of the positive benefits of impatience. Number 2, enhanced productivity. Impatient people often strive to complete tasks more efficiently to avoid waiting. So even when I was a younger child, my mother, with she would call me lazy, and it wasn't like in a negative way. She would just say, Jerome, you like lazy. And I was lazy, but what does lazy mean? It can be positive or negative. A lot of great things have come from people being lazy. And a really good example I like to think about is a television remote, right? So you used to have to, before a such thing as remotes, to turn the channel on a television, you would have to get up and go actually change it. Well, somebody said, I'm tired of getting up to do that. What's a way where I can do that without moving? And the remote was created for the television, and then even other stuff, right? So great things come from people saying, how can I do this faster? How can I do this without doing this? How can I get from point A to point B a little bit quicker, right? How can I change to channel 57 quicker than me getting up from the couch, going over and clicking or turning the dial? Okay, so that's one of the positive aspects of being impatient, right? We have a lot of great inventions that come from someone being impatient or trying to find a shortcut or being lazy. Okay. A lot of great things come from people being lazy. And I say that with quotes because there is an actual like definition of laziness without doing anything. And I want to distinguish the difference. So number 3, innovation and problem solving. I just talked about this, right? How was the remote created? Someone said, I'm tired of getting up and moving over to the TV. What else, right? So some other good examples are we've got automobiles and planes. People are like, how can we make this faster, right? How can I get from here in the United States? How can I get from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, all the way to Los Angeles, California without driving, right? It calls for innovation. Is there a train? Right? Maybe we create a train and we create train tracks and it goes straight there. Is there maybe we create a vehicle? Right? We used to have horses. There used to be horses. There's a quote Henry Ford. He said, if we asked people what they wanted, they would say faster horses. And he ended up creating a car. But he was thinking, how can we help people get to their destinations faster? How can we do that? And the car was invented. They put all of that stuff together and they created the automobile. That's innovation. And that's impatience, right? If we sat around, oh, patience is a virtue, and we waited all day, we wouldn't have automobiles. We wouldn't have planes, trains, cars. We wouldn't have those things. Okay. So that's innovation and problem solving. Yeah, so let me read that. Impatience can foster innovation as it pushes individuals to find quicker and more effective solutions to problems. This urgency can lead to new ideas and methods that prove existing processes. So I just talked about it, right? How do we get the car, the train, planes? How do we get that stuff? Impatience causes innovation. Goal achievement. So it says here is those who are impatient are often very goal oriented. And that's one of the things I talked about that book, Surrounded by Idiots by Thomas Erickson. And when I take my assessment, my profile, it says I'm goal oriented, right? How can we get there as fast as possible? How can we do that? They set clear objectives and work relentlessly towards achieving them, which can be a catalyst for personal and professional growth. I just talked about that earlier too. Some of these, I didn't even get to read these sentences in detail, but this aligns with what I just said. I talked to Scott a little bit earlier on my podcast, and I said he was an advocate of personal and professional growth, and he was, right? Like, impatience is not a negative thing. Now, number 5, leadership and initiative. Impatient individuals tend to take the lead in group settings to push the agenda forward. This can be effective in leadership roles where decision-making and initiative are critical. So we talked about procrastination. A lot of people need all of the ducks in a row. They need all the information. And while they're doing all of this, the world is moving. Activity is happening, right? And that's why some people don't get anything done because they want things to be perfect or they're too patient for situations. So impatience is not a negative thing. I keep saying that. It can be a positive thing as well. And you have to understand how to wield impatience as well as patience. All right. Both can be positive or negative. It really depends. Number 6, competitive advantage. In competitive scenarios, being impatient can serve as a motivational force, driving people to stay ahead of their competitors. So this is one of the things about me, right? I can't remember which guest, his name was Paulo, and he asked me, he said, Jerome, what do you think about what's happening in the real estate space? And I said, you know what? I love it, because that means we have to become better people. We have to become better individuals. And the better we become, the better the world becomes, right? So competition is a good thing. That means you, as a person, you have to level up. And if by you leveling up, the people around you, they get better service, they get better products, they get better everything. You become a better person for your family. Okay, so I love competition and I encourage it. I always want competition, because that means I need to level up and I need to be a better person, right? Impatience, adaptation to change. Impatient people are often quick to adapt to changing circumstances in order to avoid delays. So that's one of the things I do really well too. Is I adapt, right? I always talk about action, and I go and I move and I adapt. So a really good example of me adapting would be when I first published my book. When I first published the book, it was a mess. It was a mess. It had so many typos and so many errors. I'm talking about the real estate marketing implementation book. But if I waited around for it to be perfect, I would have never gotten the opportunities that I've received. What did I do, right? The book was a mess. What did I do? I adapted. I made changes. Okay, I had all these errors in there. What can I do to make it better, right? Meanwhile, you got some people, I'm thinking about someone in particular. He's been writing his book he's still writing his book. I just helped Norma, who I'm telling you about, I just helped her put her book together in a matter of hours, because I'm not waiting around for it to be perfect, right? I was being actually a little impatient, which is okay sometimes. It's okay to be impatient sometimes. You'll get results. You can see here, there's 7 items on the screen: prompt action, enhanced productivity, innovation and problem solving, goal achievement, leadership and initiative, competitive advantage, adaptation to change. So while it's important to manage the negative aspects of impatience, such as stress, conflict, recognizing and harnessing positives can lead to significant benefits in both personal and professional spheres as well. So those are the things that I wanted to talk about. And when I was talking to Norma, she's the one that planted the idea in my head. She wasn't being negative by any means, but it made me think of other people that tend to say, oh, you're being impatient, or oh, you got to have patience, when they're being manipulative, and they are only talking about they're only pushing their agenda. They want you to be impatient because they want you to be patient because they want you to be patient with them. They want to waste your time. They want to delay. They want to take their time. They want to not be accountable. Okay. That's a lot of people will do that and manipulate or gaslight you and make you feel guilty about wanting results, wanting specific things, wanting like action to happen immediately. Don't fall for it, right? Don't fall for it. It's not necessary. Impatience, it's neither are negative or positive. Those are subjective to the situation. Sometimes you want to be impatient, and sometimes you want to be patient. So,
Jerome Lewis. Partner Jerome Lewis.
Jerome Lewis.
Jerome Lewis.
Jerome Lewis.
Jerome Lewis.
Jerome Lewis.
Jerome Lewis. This is a book from Jerome Lewis. This is a book that on his page, it really caught my eye. It was The Insider Secrets of Successful Advertising, Lead Generation, and Marketing Implementation for Real Estate Entrepreneurs. So this book, I can't wait to read. I'm very excited to touch base on and how to get a little bit more people to recognize the business and the services that I offer personally, and then trying to progress that forward.
He is somebody who is an implementer. He knows how to get results. He has a track record of helping people get results.
Anyone's looking for a marketing expert. He is so knowledgeable. He has introduced me to some very practical, useful tools, and just the way that I can use them for it to flow in my business has been tremendous.
If you're stuck in your business on implementation, which tool to use, look no further. Jerome, thank you so much for helping me launch my virtual summit. I'm so excited that you are part of that as well. But
This is where you place your ad. So remember I kept talking about, like, why would you just do TikTok when all you got to do is hit the checkbox on Facebook? Well, this is where you do that inside the ad placement. So all you do is check that box and all your stuff is over on Instagram.
I'm eternally grateful for the opportunities that has risen out of our partnership. Yesterday, I taught my very first class in EXP World, and I was so nervous to do it. I honestly struggled with even believing in myself that I could do it, but when it was all said and done, everyone loved the class, and Jerome believed in me the entire time.
He's always been very helpful to me. He's actually been very helpful to a lot of my clients. I turn to him for a lot of advice, and we have worked together on and off.
Can't tell by now, I'm very serious. I'm an implementer. I'm like, dude, let's get stuff done. So you go to her class and you come get the content, then you come to my class, which is, it used to be just the social media mastermind.
Partner Jerome Lewis and my friend, he really helped me out with this. And, I can't really even write a sentence sometimes, but he somehow got me to do this, right? He got me to do this, right? And, this feels good, right? When you see this, like, hey, how many people can say they wrote a book, right?
And Jerome did this really well. He reached out, he gave me a video, and he said, hey, Leanna, by the way, I noticed that you always have the retargeting recipes behind there, and that you don't have your own book. So I went ahead and did something for you to help you. And he says, I did something. So I basically did 80% of the work for you. So first of all, he wowed me with what he did. But one of the reasons why he wowed me was that it was just out of the blue. And it's definitely something I need. And, he figured that out for me, and nobody had ever done that.
I had talked to, Jerome comes to all the calls. So that's another thing is I see Jerome, because he comes to all of the trainings and the calls and things like that. But speaking as the recipient, this really made him stand out for me. And it showed me, here's a go-getter. Here's a guy who literally does something and gets it done.
My marketing and implementation, it was extremely simple and easy and effective. If anyone were to ask me who would I recommend and suggest, it would definitely be Jerome, because he really helped me simplify some of my offerings, compile them, and then to also see my value and what it was that I was offering the world.
Highly recommend each one of you, if you are someone looking to work in the real estate industry, then make sure you reach out to Mr. Jerome. I'm sure that he'll be the best person to guide you further.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
thank you so much, Jerome.
Thank you. You are appreciated.
I want to say thank you very much. Thank you so much, Mr. Jerome.